Hey, welcome to this session with Mindy Gibbins-Klein. She is an international speaker and a multi-award-winning founder of 3 international brands. Mindy has a list of over 1,000 published clients, and she herself has authored and co-authored 13 books, including the bestseller 24 Karat Bold, which was endorsed by Seth Godin. Her work has been published, syndicated, and licensed across the entire globe. Her TEDx talk, Sometimes You Have to Change Yourself to Be Yourself, has nearly 1 million views, and Mindy's current focus and today's talk is based on her book and podcast, The Thoughtful Leader. Please welcome Mindy Gibbins-Klein.
Thank you, Jan. I'm wondering how many people can answer this question. Who are the thought leaders in your organization? If you think about that, assuming you know the term thought leadership, if not, I have a lot to say about it in the next half an hour or so. But assuming you know that term, I'm asking you to think about who the people are who represent thought leadership in your organization. I do a lot of speaking and writing on this topic, as Jan said, and one of the things that comes up very often is it's the founder, it's the leader, it's the C-suite, it's the executives, the people at the top. And I think that's great because for many years I've been encouraging people to be the face of their business and do it in a thought-leading way. So that's great. But if you're not thinking of anyone else, if you're only thinking of those folks, then I think you might be missing a trick. And this is my passion, is inclusive thought leadership and what I call inclusive thoughtful leadership. And I'm going to share with you what I've learned through 20 years of working with real thought leaders and seeing our world evolve into one that is very digital. I'm sure you'd agree. So firstly, what am I talking about, this thought leadership thing? There are official definitions, which goes something like this: having the courage to share your ideas and be recognized by your peers and mentors. And the first time I read that, I just felt there was something missing. Turns out the market, the audience, the receiver of the message is what was missing. So I've spent the past 14 years working with that definition where I added the market and encouraging people to share their best ideas so they can be recognized. So thought leadership is about ideas. You may know this already. Think about what you consider to be thought leadership. It's exciting, it's bold, it's original, it's maybe disruptive, maybe it's groundbreaking. It gets your attention, it turns heads. And that is the purpose of it, because in this digital world, there is so much content. There are so many articles and blogs and podcasts and videos. And by the way, we're grateful that you're spending your precious time with us watching this, because there are millions and millions of other things that you could be consuming, watching, listening to, reading. The point about it is thought leadership in its purest form. You know what it is, but it's very hard to pin it down. There are no real metrics. Well, I created some in my book, 24 Karat Bold, and I may go through them later, if you're good. But really, I'm here to focus our minds on thought leadership and the potential in this digital world of ours. So I have noticed people are taking advantage of digital platforms. You've noticed this too. I mentioned blogs, podcasts, videos, either live streamed or recorded. Speaking to people in a virtual way on Zoom and Teams and other platforms. And that's great. But when they get busy, what do? They stop doing all of that stuff and they focus on their work. Now, if this is an executive, the founder or leader of the department or the company, they can't afford to be recording videos all the time, writing and sharing and speaking at events, even if they're virtual and they save time. The organization needs them to be doing the strategic work. So this is where we take a look at the individuals who could be thought leaders. Let's call them potential thought leaders. And I find this is very exciting. This is where the inclusion aspect comes in. Because wouldn't it be great if you had lots of thought leaders in the organization? Now, it comes with its challenges, which I'll cover later. But really, imagine a scenario where you had lots of people, all those good, but maybe not all, many good people in your organization out there writing and speaking and sharing those bold, exciting, maybe disruptive ideas. Wow. Wouldn't that be something? It is. And what that something is an overall feeling in the market. Remember, they're the ones who count. There's a feeling in the market that your organization is a thought-leading organization. I always find it funny when people say, an organization is a thought leader. And in one of my books, I say, you could almost say Apple, for example, is a thought leader. But if we look at that, the words there, the company itself doesn't have thoughts. So therefore, a company or any organization can't really be a thought leader. You can have a thought leading organization when you have people out there who are contributing thought leadership. And that's what we're aiming for. I've tried so many times to get senior people to involve others in the organization. And I've found that it needs a strategy. It needs a strategic approach. But the benefits are understood. They nod along with me and they say, yes, we would love that. And we can see how the individuals will feel fulfilled. They will feel like they're contributing something and being valued. And this is real. Now, I do a lot of surveys and I get the sense that if individuals feel valued, they stay in the organization. If they don't feel valued, well, they probably won't stay. So this is a little secret weapon, if you will, to encourage people to bring their thought leadership into the world, benefiting themselves as well as the organization. Let's talk about thoughtful leadership before I move on to the benefits to the organization, because when I brought out the thoughtful leader, I noticed that people were starting to talk about thought leadership, and the definition was getting a bit hazy. And oftentimes people use phrases, overuse them, abuse them. And when I would ask somebody, what are you talking about, this thought leadership? I knew my definition. They couldn't really answer the question. And the reason for that, I believe, is because a lot of content has been churned out, pumped out, sometimes by marketing departments or agencies. I don't want to point fingers. It's done by individuals as well. And it's called thought leadership, but they've forgotten that essential component of the market deciding whether it's thought leadership or not. So I began to think about how to raise the bar, how to change the conversation, change the narrative, change the definition. Well, I'm not likely to change a definition, a globally understood concept all by myself. So I just created a new term, thoughtful leadership. And Here's what it is, in my opinion. It is thought leadership 2.0, 2.0. It is the next level of thought leadership. It's thought leadership with more thought and better quality thought put into it. So if it's okay with you, I'm going to continue and do the rest of this presentation saying thoughtful leadership. And you're ahead of so many people if you get it, if you understand that concept. So let's talk about the organization. And now you may run a very small company or charity or other type of organization. Or it may be a medium-sized one or even a big one. You may be involved in a big organization. I don't think it matters the size of the organization. When I left corporate, I had a team of about 25 people. And running my own companies, I think the maximum I've ever had in the team has been about 15. And we've still done a lot of this stuff that I'm talking about. I hope you're excited because the potential for the organization is so amazing. What you can do is you can create a lot of buzz. You can get a lot of coverage in the media, both traditional and social media. You can get people talking. Your ideas can go viral. This is a concept that has always been around, but it's now more important than ever to get noticed, get heard for the right reasons, and to stand out again for the right reasons. So the thought leadership that goes out there and the response that comes back lifts the organization and the brand. I'm sure you've seen this happen, even if you're relying only on the executives to do this job. You can still create some magic, but you can create a lot more when you include the others. So I've already spoken about retention, and I can't promise that no one will ever leave your team. But what I have seen, and as I say, I've done surveys, including employee satisfaction surveys. And it's been proven that where people are given a chance to express themselves and their ideas in a cohesive, strategic, and approved way, they feel great. Imagine someone has an article with their name on it in an industry publication. They're allowed to be a guest on someone else's podcast. Them, the individual, not the senior executive. You know, it really does go a long way to helping people feel valued and like they're contributing and expressing themselves. That's really a big part of it. So how do you go about it? Well, this is the big question, and there are many ways to do it. So I've collated my favorite techniques and strategies for you so that you can play around with some of them, or you may come up with some I don't even think of. So let's start. The first thing that you want to do is make sure that it is a strategy, that it's strategic and it's communicated as such. Once you learn about thought leadership and thoughtful leadership frameworks, you can implement one that you have approved, not only approved, but that you really see going out into the market and creating that buzz. And you involve people as much as you can. So if you have a larger organization, you're probably going to need to involve the line managers. They know their team members probably better than the senior management, definitely better than the execs. So involving them and making sure they're on board and helping them understand how to roll it out, that's key. One of the problems that I've seen is, I actually alluded to it before, when things get challenging, when people get busy, in a tough time, in a pandemic, for example, many people stripped away what they thought was nice to have and creating thoughtful content was one of those things for some organizations and some individuals. They were in a panic mode, fearing the worst, and thought we better batten down the hatches and go back to basics. Do you really want to go back to basics when you've created so much content, valuable content, ideas, and created that buzz? I think you don't. So it needs to be sustainable. And one of the tricks is having more people involved. You get to share the work or the fun. Should we call it the fun? You get to share the workload or the fun load. And you can distribute that across a much larger group of people, all of whom are in sync and aligned with the brand messaging. That's key. But making this strategic and communicating it is the first step. And then comes action. As we know, many strategies sound great on paper, but they don't necessarily play out the way they could. In the case of a thoughtful leadership strategy, helping people to actually execute on it is key. And one of the best things that my clients do is add thought. They call it thought leadership. I call it thoughtful leadership. Add the outputs of that, add some deliverables, add the goals to people's individual plans, their personal development plans. This means that it's not a nice to have. It is essential. It's part of their job. How great is that? So it needs to be woven in. It needs to be there and time allowed. Even if there's a panic, okay, if the customer's in crisis, we need to focus on that customer. But then as quickly as possible, get back to the plan and to make sure that it's not slipping. So many things, we know so many things that we learn, we do trainings, and we have the best intentions and they slip. So this needs to be part of the culture. If you're excited about this, if you're good at implementing other culture changes and improvements, then you will be very good at this. It really is about the intention and keeping that strong and thinking about the benefits that we've been talking about to the individual and also to the team and the entire organization and society, if you want to think big, because this valuable content, this thoughtful leadership or more thought has gone into it, probably answers a lot of questions that people in your tribe are thinking about. So this can lead to, you don't have to, but it can lead to compensation. This is a tricky area, and I thought, should I even cover it? And the answer was yes, because it's an option. One of the things that progressive and enlightened organizations are doing is not only including these things, writing, speaking, producing articles, going to events representing the company, whatever. Not only putting them in the personal development plan, but also compensating people for that. The reason it's tricky is you don't really know what that person is going to produce. You do, you agree the framework, the concept, you know what we've got lots of methodologies here at the Thoughtful Leader to help each person have an individual thoughtful leadership plan, which includes mapping out their content. So you have an idea, but you don't know what the response is going to be. So it's not like a commission based on a sale. It's a bit more nebulous than that. So those clients that I have who are doing this properly, they take that holistic approach. They trust that it's all going into the pot and it's all leading to the brand elevation that I was talking about. I don't know how you feel about it, so just maybe use one of my favorite words, which is maybe. In fact, maybe you'll increase somebody's salary or embed this into their compensation package. Maybe. Okay, so no pressure. Another thing that you could do is make it fun, because we hear young people like fun. Everybody likes to have fun. How could you implement gamification into this? Could you create different creative ways of recognizing and rewarding and celebrating the thoughtful leadership output of these key individuals, these essential people in your organization? Of course you could. A note of caution. An organization that I've been watching recently has a leaderboard. So the people who produce the most articles, who just do more, go to the top. And that's not always appropriate, because we have to remember diversity. I've been talking about inclusion, but we have to respect the fact that some people really may not even want to do this. So they don't want to see their name at the bottom of a leaderboard. Would you? There are ways to handle this. There are other games. I'm not a games creator, but there's probably somebody in your team who could come up with something. Again, include people and figure out a way to make this even more fun, as well as productive and hopefully commercially successful. There are so many things that you could do. So people can share internally if they're not confident sharing externally. And this is a very interesting concept. When I first started talking about thought leadership back in 2008, somebody in one of the audiences that I was talking to put their hand up and said, what about internal communications and internal thought leadership? And I had never thought about it. Now I think about it, and now I see the value, especially in this digital world where people are in different places. You can feel like you're having a bigger impact when you talk to somebody in another town, city, or country. You've never met them, but in a way, it feels like you are expanding your influence. I don't know if this makes any sense to you, but a lot of things have changed. And it's a great thing to be able to expand your influence if you want to. That's the key. So, let's honor diversity. Let's honor the fact that some people may not even want to play this game. This has been hard for me to take on board, because I always think everybody wants to be an influencer and everybody wants their ideas to be heard and everybody wants to share. Not true. Simply not true. So part of this strategy is figuring out who would love to do this, who right now in your team or organization would be biting your hand off to do this stuff. Can you think of one or two or more people who have really great ideas, but so far they haven't been allowed or encouraged to share them widely, to share them publicly, to represent the brand? There's so much potential that's probably untapped. And if you are doing this stuff, I give you huge kudos, because most organizations don't even understand the bare minimum about thought leadership, much less thoughtful leadership, much less inclusive, thoughtful leadership in our digital world. So just imagine the next time someone asks you, who are the thought leaders in your organization? You actually have such a long list that you can't even name them all. And that, in my opinion, would be a really great thing for them, for you, for your brand, and for the world. Thank you so much for your attention during my presentation. I actually want to give you a gift if you'll accept it. It's free, no strings attached. There's a book that I wrote with almost the same title as this presentation. As you might have guessed, it's called Thoughtful Leadership in a Digital World. Would you like it? All you need to do is contact me. My details are very easy to find, and we'll post them for you. It would be my pleasure to spend hours and hours and hours with you, but that's not possible during this summit. I'd be very happy to have a chat with you anytime about your own thoughtful leadership, about creating a culture of thoughtful leadership in your organization, and about developing more thoughtful leaders so that everybody wins. That's what gets me excited. If it gets you excited, I look forward to talking to you very soon. Have a great day. Now I take my... It was what? Good. I know. Well, I do a lot of this, and I have done this. What I did was I merged some of the topics from two different talks that I have done over the past few months and figured out, because I don't know who's going to listen. The whole thing about the small, the medium, the large, I kind of cast the net very wide, which I don't like doing that. I like being specific, but we don't know, right? Exactly. So, and I was supposed to bring it. I thought it was a bit naff and I thought I might spill it, but I have my Wonder Woman mug and I was going to bring that. And then I thought, no, let's not make this about me. But, not to the whole global audience, or yes. You could, you know what, it's fun. If you want outtakes, they are usually more fun than the actual presentation. No, it was when I saw yesterday the word evergreen, I was like, oh yeah, like I was going to do this live and I know it was going to be recorded anyway. And I thought I'd be better live, but all I did was just pretend that people were watching. I mean, yeah, I always think I prefer live, and I never, ever, ever do a retake unless the tech, lets us down. I'm a one-take wonder. Oh, do you remember our interview on the podcast? And we just did it, and there was no editing required or anything. Yeah, I had fun stumbling. I don't say, oh, let me put my teeth back in, or these stupid things that people say. I just keep going. And I try not to do this looking up thing, but we have to think about stuff. And so my eyes went wherever. Well, I think I stare at the camera too much, but anyway. So I'm very excited about this particular piece that we've just done. I will point a lot of people to it because it is my cutting edge, absolute current message and content. I'm very happy with the way it went. I hope the recording turns out okay. I'm sure it will. You know what you're doing. What was I going to say? For the intro, can you